If you want to see someone who doesn't know what they're doing not fix a sound card, that's what this crap is. This is an ASUS Xonar DGX. I got this when I bought a cheap PC, and it did work, but this coil was getting very hot. Basically, I don't expect the sound card to be running as hot as a graphics card, i.e. it has a short. By coincidence, I just happen to have another one, and this inductor doesn't get hot. The inductor was about 76C, this diode 86C, and this, maybe ferrite, was about 83 degrees C. You probably could get away with it, but 86 seems like a short to me. Either way, you're not going to learn anything by doing nothing, so might as well investigate. The first problem was I couldn't find any schematics, so you have to manually trace everything. But at least I had a card that was roughly similar, so I could compare it to that. We know there's something funny with this power supply, or at least something it's powering. This is actually a buck converter that drops voltage. This is our inductor, a diode, a capacitor, or it could be this one over here, and a controller over here. We can skip the inductor because it's low resistance and connected to ground, so it's always going to show a short. So we'll look at the diode first because it gets super hot. We diode check the good one and we're getting 1.4 volts. And the faulty sound card shows a direct short. Well, I pulled the diode and it was fine, and what the problem was, the rail was shorted. This is kind of where I did the stupid / simple thing and started removing every part with a double short. Basically, a passive to ground will always show a short on one end, but the other end should be connected to a net that's not shorted to ground, i.e. they should only beep on one side. I removed the diode because it was double shorted, but that was connected to the same net as these capacitors, so I removed all these capacitors. They were connected to this link or ferrite bead, and that was shorted, so I removed it. This is where I hit a dead end because there's no more double shorts to continue to. I checked every passive on this board and couldn't find any more, so I kind of hit a dead end. So I kind of figured I'd better use voltage injection and see what else gets hot. It was kind of lucky I removed that many parts because now I knew where to inject the voltage. This pad was shorted to ground on the faulty one, but on the good one, this net wasn't shorted to ground, so I figured I'll inject the voltage here. Next I need to know how many volts I could safely inject into this card, so I thought I'd measure it from the good one. And this is probably where I made a mistake, because I saw 11.9 volts and didn't notice it was negative 11.9 volts. Either way, I set it to 3 volts and then current limited to 1 amp. Injected that into our pad, started feeling around for something that got hot, but found absolutely nothing. So I bumped it to 5 volts, 2.8 amps. I injected that into our pad and felt around, but when I got here, something was really hot. I didn't know which part it was exactly, so I sprayed it with IPA and injected some voltage. And if you look at this capacitor, the IPA is moving away. So I pulled it and it was shorted. This cap was a bit weird, because when I checked it with 3 volt 1 amp, this area wasn't getting hot. And I think I remember checking it for double shorts and it wasn't. But now it was. Maybe it had over 25 ohms and wouldn't buzz the multimeter, but after the 3 amps it was a dead short. A quick check of the good one shows about 0.89 nanofarad, but then again this meter doesn't read these small caps very well, especially in circuit. I'm going to throw in a 1 nano, which is the 102 capacitor code, but I think it was a lot more, because the 102 is only half the height of the faulty part. I soldered in my new wonky cap, and put all the other stuff I took off back. And it's not shorted anymore. A quick temp check with the thing running, and it seems to be running cool now. I tried it out in a real test, and the speakers seem to work okay. As a side note, you can check these multi-channel sound cards in Windows 10. Press Windows and R to get the run box, then type in mmsys.cpl. That opens up sound devices, and if you click on speakers and then go configure, you can select a speaker configuration and then just press test. I don't have the other speakers connected, so they're not making any sounds. The problem now is the microphone and the line in doesn't work. Whether it wasn't working before I touched it, or I blew it when I put the 3 volts into the minus 12 volts, I don't really know. And looking around, I don't think I can work that out. I might be a damaged input in the major sound chip, but I'm not really going to chase it because the card's not really worth much anymore. Basically the sound on motherboards is pretty good these days. Oh well, this one looks like it's going to be a fail, or at least a speaker only sound card.